my name is Katie Hollingsworth and I'm with Simpson County 4-H, and today I'm going to show you how to make carrot or zucchini cake. So before we begin, one of the most important things about cooking anything is to make sure you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. I'm going to go through the list of ingredients that you're going to need. You're going to need flour, sugar, baking soda, ground cinnamon, ground nutmeg, salt. In the recipe it says salad oil. That just means canola oil. So there's that. You're going to need 4 eggs, 3 cups of shredded zucchini or carrots, depending on which one you'd like to make, and vanilla. And also you can add in nuts if you'd like, but I will not be adding in nuts in this recipe today. But if you'd like to, you can also put in nuts. So to begin, after you've washed your hands and before you start anything with this, you're going to want to go and preheat your oven. So you're going to turn on the little dial and you're going to put it at 350 and let that start warming up while you're mixing things together. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to mix our dry ingredients. Pretty simple. So first you're going to start out with your flour. Okay, I keep mine in a plastic bag to kind of keep out unwanted creatures. So for this, you're going to need cups. So right here I have my measuring cup. This is a dry ingredient measuring cup. So you just go in, scoop it up as much as you can. All right, so once you scoop it up, it's hard to get it to where it's exactly a cup. Often we have this where it's hanging over. Well, there's an easy fix for that, and I'm going to show you how. So you're going to take your butter knife. Okay, so notice how one end of the butter knife is curved and the other end is pretty much flat. So to help us make sure we've got exactly 1 cup and it's perfectly level, you're going to take the flat end of your butter knife, but essentially the non-cutting end, and you're gonna, so you might have a little hole here. I have a little hole in mine, so I'm gonna bring my flour back a little bit to cover up the hole. You might make a little bit of a mess with this, but that's okay. It's all part of cleanup later. You know it's good cooking when you make a mess. So here I am. I've got all of my holes filled and it's still overflow. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this flat edge and I'm going to scrape it off like this. Just lay it completely flat against the thing, and it'll do what it's supposed to do. So I'm going to do that in the bag so I don't get all the extra flour everywhere. It's important to just put it back in the bag. And there you go. So there you go, perfectly flat over the top, exactly 1 cup. Then you're going to put that in your bowl. So for this recipe, you have 2 different size bowls. You have a smaller bowl and a larger bowl. We're going to get to the larger bowl later. The smaller bowl is for just your dry ingredients. So I'm going to dump that in there. And then I'm going to do it again because the recipe calls for 2 cups of flour. And I'm just going to do that on the bag here so that way I don't make a huge mess. Again, 2. All right. And then when you're my next ingredient, which is sugar. So with the sugar, you're going to do the exact same thing you did with the flour. It is also 2 cups. So you're going to do it twice. So you can just use the same cup. It doesn't matter if there's a little flour in it. It'll be okay. If you want to, you can rinse it out, dry it off, and then use it again. But if it has a little flour in it, it's fine. So you're going to scoop it. Sugar's a little bit harder with the smaller bag, at least for me. All right, so then you can take the knife, the same knife, and do the exact same thing that you did. Woo, sorry, I flicked some sugar into my eye. Okay, you're going to do the exact same thing you did with the flour. Make sure you got all your holes filled, and then you're going to make it flat and even. Like I said, it'll probably make a bit of a mess, but that's okay. You can always clean it up later. So 1, 2. All right, then we're going to move on to our next ingredient, which is baking soda. And for that, we're going to need a teaspoon. Just one of these little things. So you're going to open it up. And the teaspoon, the way we do that works exactly the same as when we did the cup. So you're going to get, let's see, make sure I do this right. Okay. You fill up your teaspoon. Then you're going to take your knife. Again, it's okay if it's got a little flour, a little sugar on it. It's not the end of the world, but like I said earlier, you can rinse it off if you want. And then you're going to run it across like before. Boom, there you go. Simple as that. So then for the baking soda, you're going to also do this twice. You might have to tap it a little bit to make sure it comes out. Just lightly tap. You don't have to bang it, but you know, just a little tap. Same with the cup, your cup measurer. All right. And now we move on to the cinnamon. So it's kind of tricky because the opening is not very big, but it is doable. See? Again, just 1 teaspoon. Like before, just a teaspoon. And I drop that in. Unlike the baking soda, there's only, no, I'm sorry, there were 2 of those. So you put in 2. This is really hard to get back in because the opening's so small. Got a little mountain of cinnamon happening over here. All right. Put the lid back on it so it doesn't spill everywhere. We already have enough of a mess. Okay, so then we move on to 1 teaspoon of salt. For this, I'm just going to pour it in over my little container here. Okay, went over a little bit, that's okay. And I'm going to level it. And unlike the cinnamon and baking soda, you're only going to do 1 of these. And the last thing that we're going to do is the ground nutmeg. It's the zucchini cake. So instead of using carrots, I'm going to use shredded zucchini. So if you're doing the shredded zucchini instead of carrots, you're going to add 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. For the carrots, you won't add this, just for the zucchini. And the same, it's got little holes in the top, so you're just going to open it up. And get it out. And also just 1 of these. Okay. And that is all we have for our dry ingredients. So now what you're supposed to do is now you need to mix them together. The best way to mix these would be if you have a whisk, to use a whisk, because whenever you put it in and mix it, the grains go through the whisk and mix it together more smoothly. But if you don't have a whisk, then a spoon would work just fine. Just make sure you got it all evenly distributed and it's not separated like this is right now. I don't know if you can see that. You probably kind of hard to see, but you know, when you pour stuff in, you'll see that's pretty much separated. The point of this is to make sure it's all mixed together evenly. So I'm going to use the whisk since I have one. For right now, you're done with that and you're just going to set it to the side, which I'm going to set it over here. Next, you're going to want your big bowl. So for this, you can also set your whisk and spoon you use to the side also. Okay, so for the big bowl, we're going to add in our wet ingredients. So the first thing we're going to start off with is our salad oil, or aka canola oil. So for this, I'm going to take my wet ingredient measuring cup and use this. So in this measuring cup, we've got like the 1 cup is up here, and you've got 3/4, 2/3, 1/2 all down here. We're not going to look at any of these today because all we need is 1 cup of the salad oil. So our 1 cup is all the way up here, so you can see it's right here. So that's where we're going to be measuring our oil to. And so to do, you're going to take your cup and you're going to set it to where it is set it on your thing, and you are going to get eye level with it. So I'm going to crouch down here and I'm going to look. Okay, I'm going to take my oil, and if this is kind of heavy and it's going to be kind of hard to pour, so if you kind of got little hands or you're kind of a little person, you might have to ask for mom or dad's help with this one, or a brother or sister, just because this is kind of hard. You don't want to pour it all over the place or pour too much. So ask them for help if you need it. So you're going to bend down here, and I'm going to pour it in while looking at the 1, and I'm going to stay eye level with it, and once I get directly even with that 1 line, I'm going to stop, and you're done. There you go. You've got 1 cup of oil. So then you take your oil and you pour it in your large bowl. Sometimes you kind of got to do this little shake with it to make sure all the oil is out, because it's kind of likes to stick to the bottom of things. Okay. So now here kind of comes, I think, kind of the fun part where you get to use fun electronic kitchen tools. And so you're going to take your eggs. Okay, so for this recipe, you need 4 eggs. And so this is kind of special in that you only add in 1 egg at a time and beat it to make sure that it's smoothly beaten in. So you're going to take your first egg, and you're going to, okay, so this is how you crack an egg. So you're going to take it on the edge of your bowl and make sure you hold it with 1 hand so your bowl doesn't go tipping whenever you try to hit your egg with it. So you're going to hold it with 1 hand, and you're going to lightly tap to where you get a crack. You should get a crack in your egg, okay? Then you're going to take your fingers on each side of the egg and just put your fingers kind of in the crack and open it and drop your egg inside. And voila, you've cracked an egg. So you're going to take your beater. You're going to have your whisks in the beater, and you're only going to turn it up 1 or 2 notches. You don't need to just one of those. You don't need to, you put your 1 egg in, you're going to put your beater in straight down like this until the blades touch the bottom or just above it. It's your preference. And you're going to turn it on 1. And I'm going to beat this until the egg is completely been combined with the oil. So. After putting in that last egg, you might want to mix it just a little bit more than before, just to make sure all of those eggs and oil are mixed together. So this is what it should look like afterwards. It looks like yellow cake batter, but it's definitely more runny. So that's what it looks like. Okay. So you're not quite done with this yet, so keep this held out. But you are done with the eggs. So go ahead, and if you have the whole cart now, put it back in your fridge, or you can just throw away your eggshells. Okay. So next, after all of this is done, we're gonna go and we're gonna get our dry mixture. So remember, the dry mixture was set apart before in our small bowl. Well, you need that now, and we're gonna add it to our wet mixture. So you're only going to do this little bits at a time. Take your mixture and you're just going to pour a little bit in. And there's really no science to it. Just enough to where you can get a good mixture going. And then you're going to take your beater, and again, you're going to mix it. You're going to put it straight down. You're only going to put it on 1 or 2 again, because especially if you do it now and you just throw it real high right now, then the flour and the dry contents are going to go flying up in the air. So, same thing. You just start it, and you go in circles, and there's that. And that's all mixed together. So you're going to need is, you're going to need your carrots or zucchini, a grater, and a knife. Especially with this part, make sure you have an adult present because you can really hurt yourself doing this. So I'm going to do it on a plate here just to keep it clean, and I recommend maybe doing it on a plate also, just to help with cleanup later, but you can also just do it on a cutting board. It's just your preference. So, to do this part, I'm going to take my zucchini, or if I had a carrot, my carrot. I'm going to lay it down. So, we don't want to eat the end part of the zucchini. It doesn't taste good. It's pretty yucky. This side and this side. And if you were doing this, I already have mine shredded up over here just to keep the video a little shorter, but you're probably going to use a whole one of these and the whole carrot also. So you're going to want to cut off both ends. So to do this, you want to make sure you pick up your knife by the handle, blade facing kind of down, because you take your zucchini and you're going to grab it down here on the other end of where I'm cutting. So I'm cutting down here, I'm holding it down here, just to make sure I don't cut my fingers, okay? So then you're just going to cut off. You don't need to cut off that much, just enough to get that end off, that brown end or the stem. So cutting over here, notice how far away my fingers are from where I'm cutting. So now you're just going to kind of saw a little bit and put a little pressure down, and there you go. You've cut off the end. I'm going to set that to the side over here. And then you're going to do the same to the other end. It should be pretty easy to cut. It's not too bad. I'm going to put those ends in the trash. And now you're done with your knife. So you're going to take it facing sharp end down, and you're going to put it in your sink or in your dirty dish bowl. All right. Here kind of comes the tricky part. So this is a grater, okay? And you use these to make things look like this. Take your zucchini, and you're going to just lay it up here, and you're going to push down. And it won't come off the first time because you got to go up and down, but I just wanted to show you. That's kind of what you do. You got to make sure you put force down on it, or else it won't cut. You just can't lightly do it. It won't cut anything. So you go down, up, down, up. Now that you've got your 3 cups of zucchini shredded, you're going to bring back your bowl with your batter in it. Okay. And so for this, now you're just going to dump it in. You don't have to pour it in a little at a time. You just dump the whole thing in. So there's all that. Okay. And this is also the time when you add in your vanilla and nuts. Like I mentioned before, I don't have nuts, but if you have nuts, this would be the time that you add them in. So I'm going to have to go back and get my teaspoon. Okay? Because this takes 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And that's all you add. I would then add nuts, but like I mentioned before, I don't have any nuts. So now you're just going to do the same mixing you've done before. You're going to put it straight in, and you're going to mix until the zucchini has been thoroughly and well mixed into the batter. now we have our batter. So now we move on to the last part of this. So the recipe says you can either do 1 9x13 pans or 2 round circle pans. So what I'm going to do is I have 2 9-inch round pans. Little shakes to make sure it's all mixed in well. And then you're going to spray it. And remember, far away and quick. You don't want to roll slow. So, and there you go. That's literally all it takes. Just a nice light covering of oil on the bottom. You have to spread it evenly between the 2 pans. So make sure you get your adult for help, because this is pretty heavy and it'll be hard to pour. So basically, I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to pour this in. And I'm just going to pour until there's a light layer, just covering it, just a short little layer, because I can come back and pour more in later. I just want to make sure I have enough for this one. So then you come and do the same with this. Just pour enough to cover the bottom. Then you're going to lift it up and you're going to see how I do that with that, to make sure that it doesn't drip all down your bowl, because then you lose batter. So now I'm finished with that, and now I'm going to come back to this one. The big thing here is to make sure that they are even. You don't want one to have too much and one not enough, and then whenever they cook, one is super underbaked and one is overcooked, and it becomes a hockey puck. So notice how whenever I pour it, it's not coming out as fast anymore, but I still have plenty of batter on the sides. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scrape the bowl to get it all down there. So notice how it used to be covered in batter, and now you can see the silver. So now I'm going to pour it in here. Come back to this one. You're going to be going back and forth a lot. Just be patient, because this is important. I know you can't get it exact, but you want to try to get it as close as possible. Okay. Now that your bowl's empty, you can put it in the sink because you're done with it. So now, it's important that the batter in here is level. So it should spread really nicely if the batter is made correctly. Mine just kind of spread out. It's totally good. But if you want, you can tap it, because sometimes you can have a little mound in the middle to make sure that it's spread evenly. Make sure you have an adult for help, because you don't want to burn yourself. So you're just going to open it up and you're going to slide them in. You cook those. I'm going to move these to the side. And then when you're done, in the round pan, you should get something that looks like this. Super simple and easy recipe, and I have to say, quite delicious. I had a little piece of my other 9-inch round, and it was pretty good. So, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoy your cake even more.